Hi, hello, and welcome to a video that has been in the making for 4 months. When I was a child, me and my family were really big into audiobooks, and we would always play audiobooks on any drive. One of our favorite audiobooks was this series called Skulduggery Pleasant. I stopped listening to it as a child, I think around book 4. I recently found out that it is an ongoing series. The newest book came out last month of this year. There are like 20 of these books, and I was so excited because I remember it being really, really fun. The Chicago Public Library has all of them on audiobook, so I was like, this is the perfect opportunity for me to get back into that because I really wanted to see if it still lived up to how good I imagined it in my brain. The first books 1 through 5 are absolutely amazing. Would highly recommend listening to them audiobook because it's a really good experience. After book 5, it progressively goes downhill and it's just a ride that I had to get off on. So I stopped at around book 9 because I simply couldn't continue the series anymore, which was really unfortunate. I am here to tell you to read books 1 through 5. So Skulduggery Pleasant is a series, it's a fantasy series. It's about a skeleton detective and a 12-year-old girl named Stephanie. The audiobooks for this are absolutely incredible. There's this really fun, funky, like skeleton jazz music that happens in between each chapter. There's like a little like, yeah, noise at every chapter, which I think really adds to the ambiance. I also had a friend listen to this audiobook because I wanted to see if it was just my nostalgia saying that this was good or if it's actually like an enjoyable series. And my friend also gave it 5 stars and was like, nope, this is good. The narrator for it does all sorts of voices for all of the characters. I read books 1 through 9 of this series and books 1 through 5, super solid. The rest I think you should just forget about and never ever wonder about what happens with them. But 1 through 5 is very good. I think it's a very compelling magic system and also really interesting characters. The magic system, essentially, you can be either an elemental mage or an adept. Elementals are obviously like earth, wind, fire, water, and adepts basically specialize in some certain niche magic. So there's someone who can walk on walls and there's someone who has symbols all over their body. I think it's a very interesting and fun magic system because they're all these characters who have like really niche magic, so each character and each villain feels really unique. In this magic system, there is the name that you are born with. It's a unique name for each person. It's written in this book of names and no one knows what it is. Then you have the name that you were given by your parents. So Stephanie is given her name by her parents. And then to protect those names, you take a name when you start to do magic, which protects you if you're a sorcerer. So she goes from being Stephanie Edgley to Valkyrie Kane, which is a very sick name. Part of the intrigue for me as a child was if I did magic, what name would I give myself? One of my favorite parts is Skulduggery Pleasant named himself Skulduggery Pleasant before he became a skeleton. That's just silly, that's just goofy. And there's a really good level of humor that I think is enjoyable from all ages. I have read a lot of young adult books where the humor just feels flat or just feels very Tumblr-esque. The fact that Stephanie is a 12-year-old girl is another level of humor. I found it so much funnier to read this as an adult because in my mind, Stephanie was like 16 when I was listening to the books in middle school. And the fact that she's 12 and like fully understanding that as a 20-year-old makes this series so much funnier because this 12-year-old says, if you don't take me with you to solve magical crimes, I will step on your hat. And so the skeleton just goes, yeah, all right. She's out here risking her life at 12? At 13 years old, she's fighting gods? It's a level of ridiculousness that I could not comprehend when I was a child. So I would super recommend the books 1 through 5. I also think that book 5 might have the strongest plot as far as villain and suspense and action. A lot of the earlier books are very like action-packed in the sense that you're never bored. It's a 6-hour long audiobook and the entire time something is happening. Every 2 minutes of rest, there's like another thing happening. Not in the way where A Ruinous Fate did it, where it was like, okay, we walk 10 paces, oh no, a bad guy, which felt very unnatural and clunky. This just feels, I mean, it feels like a grimy detective novel, but it's with a 12-year-old girl and a skeleton, and they can throw fire. It's fun. I am not looking for the most quality plot and writing when I'm reading a detective novel. I don't think that this is like cream of the crop, best writing ever. I am saying it, however, it is a fun time. I think originally when the publication deal went through, he was only supposed to make 3 or 4 books, and then he wanted to continue the series and it was doing well enough that HarperCollins agreed to a few more books. I think you can start to see that after a while, similar to how Doctor Who and Supernatural, I was on Tumblr in 2012, so of course I was super Who-locked. The first few seasons of Doctor Who and Supernatural, it's just like, it's a man in a box and he goes every episode and he saves some aliens and then he goes off to the next thing. And in Supernatural, you know, they fight a supernatural creature and then they go off to the next thing. And each episode is like a little one-off and it's just fun and it's just easy. You know the overarching arc of the episode before you watch it. And then around like season 5 of these two things, they're like, what if we add a really complex plot? Why not? And then like, you know, Doctor Who has that whole like silence arc, which really lost a lot of whatever was happening, and Supernatural has the whole thing where they're like fighting God and Lucifer and all of that, and you just kind of like lose the fun silliness that you really loved from the beginning. That's kind of what happens with Skulduggery Pleasant. It starts to have this very complex plot, and originally I thought that this plot was just going to take like 2 books, and it ended up taking 4 books. The other thing that happens is halfway through, apparently books 6 and 7 were rushed and didn't get the amount of editing that they needed. It's really obvious because the books become, from versus like a 6-hour audiobook to like a 17 to 20-hour audiobook. It's not like it has more substance, it just feels like it has a lot more that should have been filtered out. So the books are longer, but not because they're better, simply because there's just a lot more happening that doesn't need to happen. It's really hard to like watch a series that you thought was so good turn into this terrible plot, and that's one of the reasons where I don't think that books should really continue past book 5, because I think we start to lose a lot of what is going on and what the characters are, because you have to keep making like crazier and crazier plots. Another thing that I heard is that Derek Landy didn't take notes on any of his previous books. So when he's on book 9, I think it really starts to make sense, because a lot of the characters are making choices that just don't seem like things the characters would do, and they change so drastically from the original 5 books, and it just seems there was a lot less thought put into these books. Again, like one of the things is like books 6 through 9 could have been 1 book, and it ended up being 3 really long books for no reason. So in my humble opinion, you should listen to this series on audiobook. Most libraries have at least the first 3. Listen to it on audiobook, have a great time, and then just stop, and then just never wonder. Never wonder what happens after. It's not fun. It'll ruin the series for you. Take it from me, if you're just looking for like something to boost your Goodreads and also have a fun time. Skulduggery Pleasant, an amazing series. I can't recommend it enough. That's all I've got for you. Hi, hello, and welcome to, for some reason, the first book of this very long summary not recording. So anyway, welcome to the second half of this video. I am going to try and explain book 1 through 9. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, after book 5 it starts to get a little wonky. We start to get a little confused, but I will try my best. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want me to go more in depth into each individual book, let me know, because that's something I'm interested in doing. A few disclaimers: I'm going to do bare bones basic plots, because for 1, I don't want this video to be 3 hours long, and for 2, I'm just trying to explain most of the plots from book 1 through 5. That way you can understand what's happening and why books 6 through 9 were such a dumpster fire. Another disclaimer: I don't have a printer, and therefore I only put the art of characters I felt relevant on the board, which you will see in book 2. Also, I did not like most of the canon art for the characters. It's simply not how I imagined the characters, so I am only using the art that I feel is necessary. All of the art that I got is off of the Fandom Wiki, so thank you to Fandom Wiki for that. Let's get into book one. So book one, we start with Stephanie Edgley, who is a 12-year-old girl. Her uncle has just died, and she is needed for the will reading of her uncle. So she goes, she's there with her mom, dad, her aunt and uncle, and then this random man named Skulduggery Pleasant. During the will reading, her aunt and uncle get a boat and a brooch. Skulduggery Pleasant gets some really fun advice that says the key to safer waters is right before your eyes, and Stephanie Edgley gets everything. So she gets his house, she gets his fortune. That night, she is spending the night at Gordon's estate, and someone tries to break in and attack her. This is where Skulduggery comes to save her. We find out that Skulduggery Pleasant is actually a skeleton, and he is magical. Stephanie Edgley is like, I am 12, and I want in on whatever this is. He warns her that, you know, he's a detective, and the last partner he had died after the first night out, and she was like, okay, well, I'm going to hold your hat captive, and if you don't let me go on this adventure, I will squish it. And he's like, fair enough, all right, come along, 12-year-old. So they go to investigate Gordon's murder. But in order to skip school, Skulduggery Pleasant puts a little charm on her mirror so that whenever she touches the glass, her reflection steps out and takes over her life. And then when she goes back home, she touches the glass and her reflection gives her all of her memories. So she can be at two places at once, which is great news for her and her ability to go become magical. While they're investigating it, they have to go to one of my favorite characters' offices. Her name is China Sorrows. China Sorrows is like, yeah, I've heard the Nefarian Serpine is out. Don't know much about the death of Gordon, but I do know that there are certain things that cannot be taken from someone unless that someone is dead. So who is Nefarian Serpine? Nefarian Serpine, before this book started, there was a war between this man named Malevolent, who wanted to bring the Faceless Ones, these evil gods, back to Earth, and all of the good guys, so Skulduggery Pleasant and all of the people who fought in them. So Nefarian Serpine was one of the people who fought in the war with Malevolent. A few other generals that fought in this war, Baron Vengeance, who we will meet later, and Lord Vile, who is a very powerful, very evil necromancer. We'll also meet him later. In order for Stephanie to be in this life of magical crime, we gotta get her a suit. Gotta get her a fit. So we go to this man, his name is Ghastly Bespoke. He is amazing. He's one of my favorite characters. And I'm here to get a suit. And he is like, actually, you're 12 and shouldn't be in a war because you should be doing things like having a normal life. So no, you should absolutely not be involved in this. But he ends up making her a suit for her. She's also now going by Valkyrie Kane, which is a sick name, dare I say it. Everything's going well until Nefarian Serpine captures Skulduggery Pleasant. So we gotta go to China, we gotta ask for help. We gather a crew of people, Ghastly Bespoke is coming, and this other woman named Tanith Lowe, who I love. She is from the London Sanctuary. She's really good at sword fighting and she can walk on walls. They all go. They go and they grab Skulduggery, they get him back. We find out that Nefarian Serpine is after the Scepter of the Ancients. The Scepter of the Ancients is this evil, powerful weapon that was made by the Ancients, which were the first people to banish the Faceless Ones from this realm. Once he gets the scepter, he will be able to bring back the Faceless Ones, which is not great. He is also after something called the Book of Names, which is at the Dublin Sanctuary. In this magic system, you have 3 names. You have the name that you are born with, which is unique to everyone, the name that you are given by your parents, and then the name that you take. If you're in the magical world, you take a name. Like Stephanie now goes by Valkyrie Kane, and so on and so forth. So if someone knows your true name, they can basically control you completely, which is why the Book of Names is such a powerful weapon. And no one's been able to destroy it so far, so it's just had lots of powerful protections put on it in the sanctuary. So Nefarian Serpine is after the Scepter of the Ancient. They are now also having a race to find the Scepter of the Ancients first. This is where, remember when I said earlier that Stephanie's aunt got a brooch in the will and Skulduggery Pleasant had a little clue that said the key to safe harbor is right before your eyes? Yes. So that brooch is actually the key to this underground cave system of magical properties and evil monsters that is right underneath Gordon's house. And that is where they think Gordon probably stored the Scepter of the Ancients down in this cave system. So now they gotta race to get this before Nefarian Serpine does. Except they get to the cave system and Nefarian Serpine already has the scepter. So now it's a race to get to the Book of Names before Nefarian Serpine does. A fun fact that we learned while we're sneaking up and trying to get the Book of Names away from Nefarian Serpine is that Stephanie Edgley actually is a descendant of the Ancients, which means that the scepter, which will normally hum for intruders or people nearby, doesn't hum for her. So she's able to sneak up on Nefarian Serpine and she is able to gain the advantage on them. So there's a whole scuffle. During this scuffle, the Book of Names is thrown out somewhere. It's open to a page that Valkyrie sees something on that's certainly going to be important later. During this scuffle, you know, they get the scepter, they use the scepter against Nefarian Serpine. He's now dead. Book of Names is also destroyed by the scepter, and then after that, it has no juice. So it's just a very pretty paperweight. Obviously, after this, Skulduggery is like, you're kind of good at this detective thing, so I don't want you to be my partner. And then that's the end of book 1. And then we go on to book 2. End of book 1. Book 2, Playing with Fire. Book 2, we start off. Stephanie now goes by Valkyrie. That's her chosen name. She's really cool. So she's off to live her life of crime while her reflection goes and does school stuff. So a name I forgot to put on here, his name is Baron Vengeance. Baron Vengeance was on Malevolent's side of the war. So was China Sorrows, by the way, before she used her brain and realized that she shouldn't be on the bad side. So now she is just a neutral party. She's not good, she's not bad, but she does have good information. We find out that Baron Vengeance has been broken out of jail. We don't know how he got broken out of jail, but he got broken out of jail. This is not good. Baron Vengeance is trying to bring back the grotesquerie. What is the grotesquerie, you may ask? The grotesquerie is this thing that is full of all of these magical creatures that once lived, that no longer live, and the torso of a faceless one. The grotesquerie will be very useful because when it's at its full power in like 5 days, it will be able to open a portal to the faceless ones. And then the faceless ones can come back and take over the world, which we don't like, but people who worship the faceless ones, like Baron Vengeance, we love that plan. You might be wondering, how did he break out of a jail without a trace? Well, that is where we introduce one of my favorite characters, Billy Ray Sanguine. Billy Ray Sanguine can travel through Earth. He's pretty cool. He's Texan, and he has a great Southern accent and is just a really fun, silly boy. I love him, even though he is mainly a bad guy. I think he's great. Okay, Baron Vengeance gets a hold of this thing called the cleaver. Cleavers are basically what the sanctuary has to keep safe. They're not like people, but they're just kind of like good fighters that are created. He gets a hold of one of them and he makes it, it's called the White Cleaver. It's basically very, very powerful and also can't be killed because it's not alive. It's like dead, kind of, anyway. So they have to fight the White Cleaver. They are losing hard. They are really, really losing. This is very sad. So Ghastly uses the power of Earth, which means he turns into stone, basically, so that all of them can get away. This is very sad because the power of Earth is kind of not very well known, so we don't know when he's going to not be stone. Also, while they're trying to get information on how to kill the grotesquerie that Baron is bringing about, they have to go to this man called the Torment. The Torment has information about how to kill the grotesquerie, but refuses to give it to Skulduggery until he kills Valkyrie, because Valkyrie she's a descendant of the Ancients, which basically means that some people think she's really evil and some people think she's going to be really powerful and bad. He says, I will give you information, but you must kill this 13-year-old girl. You know how it is. So they pull up her reflection and they stage it to look like they're shooting Valkyrie, but actually they've just killed her reflection, so all is right in the world. They don't have a lot of time, so they gotta fight the grotesquerie. They fight the grotesquerie before it reaches full power and summons it to the Ancient Ones so they can defeat it, and now the rest of the grotesquerie is hanging out in the sanctuary. That's that whole plot. Important detail I forgot to note. Part of the way that they're giving power to the grotesquerie is with Lord Vile's armor. So, Baron Vengeance is using Lord Vile's armor. If you're a necromancer, you basically have to put all of your power into one object. And for Lord Vile, he put it all into his armor. So Lord Vile's armor is going to help get the grotesquerie to full strength. However, he can't use Lord Vile's armor because it's simply too powerful. So that's a whole side plot that happens. So he is using Lord Vile's armor to help raise the grotesquerie. It doesn't work anyway because these galleys fight him and win, and the grotesquerie ends up back in the sanctuary. On to book 3. We're speed running, okay? We're speed running. We start off book 3. Someone is killing all of the teleporters. This is unusual because teleporters are notoriously really hard to kill because they can just teleport out of danger when danger arrives. So someone is killing all the teleporters except for this one teleporter, my wonderful, beautiful boy, Fletcher Wren. He is useless and pretty. That is basically his main attributes. He's useless and he's pretty. He is the last teleporter alive. He has no knowledge on how to be a teleporter. He just kind of does it. So he is the last teleporter and he has really funky hair. That's basically the only thing that they say about him, is his hair is always crazy. This is not official fan art of him because the official fan art is terrible. This man named Batu is trying to bring the Faceless Ones back. He needs Fletcher to open up that portal so that the Faceless Ones can come back. Obviously, Fletcher doesn't want to do this, but also he is kind of useless, and if he's being threatened, there's not much he can do. So he opens the portal to the world of the Faceless Ones. It's a whole mess. Many people die. It's tragic. They end up, Valkyrie is able to close the portal. However, big problem, Skulduggery Pleasant gets stuck on the side of the Faceless Ones and the portal is shut. And all of these people are like, that really sucks because he was a really good dude, but we're not gonna go in after him. And Valkyrie is like, that is my homie and I am 14 at this point. I am absolutely going after my friend. So this necromancer is like, hey, I can help you get Skulduggery back if you gotta be more powerful. Right now you're an elemental, but if you take up necromancy, I think that you could become very powerful and just powerful enough to bring your friend Skulduggery back. Because Skulduggery's skull that he's using right now is not his actual skull. His actual skull was stolen from him long ago and still is on this earth. So they have a way of getting him back. So that is where we go and start book 4. Book 4, Valkyrie is on a quest to find Skulduggery's skull so that she can bring Skulduggery back from the domain of the Faceless Ones. They open up the portal, they get Skulduggery back. Skulduggery does not approve of Valkyrie learning necromancy, but it's fine. They go to the temple of the necromancers and they learn about this thing called the Deathbringer. The Deathbringer is supposed to be the most powerful necromancer ever. It will stop the end of the world, which we love to see. Valkyrie would love to stop the end of the world. That is her whole thing. That's what she does all the time. Originally, they thought Lord Vile was going to be the Deathbringer, but he turned out to be super evil and then died. And now all that's left is his armor. So Valkyrie, Deathbringer, great news. This is where we also find out that the necromancer's soul catcher is missing. That's so weird. That soul catcher is pretty self-explanatory. It captures souls. Also, there's a whole side plot here. It's not really a side plot, but there's a gang of villains, basically. Billy Ray Sanguine is part of these villains. They are trying to take down our homies, okay? So they're trying to get this bomb. In order to get this bomb, they need something called a remnant. A remnant, I kind of imagine it, you know those like little black slimy things in Spirited Away? I kind of imagine it like that. It goes into your mouth and you get possessed by it. If it's in your body for more than 3 days, it's there for a long time. So they think that they're gonna use the soul catcher to put a remnant inside to possess someone so that they can get this bomb up and running, right? All right, cool. Other side notes that happened. Skulduggery and Valkyrie, also Ghastly is back, which we love. So Ghastly is part of the gang again. Valkyrie and Skulduggery go to a psychic who has a vision. This vision is about some really powerful, really evil person named Dark S. Dark S is going to bring the end of the world and also kill Valkyrie's parents. This is not good. We do not like it. They stopped the bomb from happening. They put the remnant that was possessing the person that created the bomb back into the soul catcher, give that back to the necromancers, and all is right in the world. That is the end of book 4. Pray for me. Book 5. Book 5 is my favorite book. I feel like it has the strongest plot and the most interesting plot. All right, so, oh, I forgot to send a little bit of end thing. Remember in book 1 where the Book of Names and Valkyrie saw a page opened up? Well, she saw her true name, and guess what you think her true name is? It is Dark S. So she somehow brings about the end of the world and kills her parents. This is obviously not good. This is where we start to get this really long and involved side plot that could have been a single book or even not in here. On to book 5. We've got Valkyrie, we've got Fletcher, they're dating, they're in love, it's great. We also have the necromancers. The necromancers are trying to get more information about this horrible prophecy about Dark S, and also get more information on the Deathbringer, because they think it's Valkyrie, but they want to make sure. So the remnant, remember, that's in their soul catcher, they use that. This goes terribly because there's not just one remnant, there's actually a bunch of remnants. All of the remnants are loose, and all of the remnants are trying to take over the world. There's an epic fight on the remnants. The reason I like this one so much is everyone's getting possessed by remnants. So Tanith gets possessed by a remnant, Fletcher gets possessed by a remnant, China gets possessed by a remnant, and then Valkyrie also gets possessed by a remnant. The problem is Valkyrie, also known as Dark S, has got Dark S living inside of her. So when the remnant possesses her, Dark S, her evil alter ego, which I hate the whole side plot of having an evil alter ego. It's just a bad side plot. It shouldn't happen. Anyway, Dark S comes out. There's this whole side thing where if you know your true name, you basically, like, your true name holds all of your power. So if you know your true name, you can become almost as powerful as a god, right? That's gonna also be important later. So Dark S destroys the remnant inside of Valkyrie and then starts causing mayhem, destroying a whole bunch of remnants. All of the remnants are like, oh hey, wait, she's gonna bring back the end of the world. Actually, we worship Dark S. She's our main gal now. So that's the whole thing that happens. Tanith gets possessed by a remnant, which is unfortunate. They finally are able to get all of the remnants locked up again, except for Tanith's remnant, who is now bonded to Tanith. Tanith and Billy Ray Sanguine get together and they go off to have a life of crime. This is sad because Tanith and Ghastly were having a little romance plot that was happening that we were really rooting for. Another thing that happens in this book is, remember how I said if you know someone's true name, you can control them? Yeah, so if people find out that Darkness is Valkyrie, they'll be able to control her and make her do whatever she wants, which is also bad because Darkness is supposed to take over the world. She goes to Dr. Nye, who is a war criminal. Dr. Nye used to help out Malevolent and torture people and do experiments on them. So she goes to Dr. Nye to seal her true name so that no one can use it against her. So at the end of book 5, Skulduggery is fighting some dude, and the strangest thing happens. Remember Lord Vile, who we all thought was dead? Yeah, he's just walking around. Skulduggery is like, that's not possible. You can't be around. And then he disappears. With that weird knowledge happening. That's gonna be important. Everyone lock that in your brains. Okay, so book 6 is called The Deathbringer. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, from this point on, it's no longer a fun ride. The books start becoming 10 times longer and also just have a lot of stuff that just doesn't need to be there. I personally hate the whole subplot of having like an evil alter ego that lives inside of you. So after this point, we really start to lose it. So there's constantly talk about this evil Dark S gal. No one knows that Valkyrie is also Dark S. This whole journey is very sad. Tanith is off with Billy Ray Sanguine. They are in love. Trialsaurus is up on the wall because I love her, but she's not really that relevant. Basically, she's just a plot device. Skulduggery and Valkyrie just kind of go to her when they need something. That's all she's good for, but I love her. So she will stay on the wall, okay? Now that Darkus has come out once because of the remnants from book 5, remember? Now she's got this little evil voice in her head being like, let me out. I don't want to kill your parents. Not great. All of the necromancers think that she is the Deathbringer. The Deathbringer is going to save the world, which is great because Valkyrie is like, I would love to save the world. I don't want to end the world, which I'm supposedly going to be doing. I want to save it. We also find out during this time, throughout the series, every time a new Grand Mage gets elected, they end up dying in that book, which is unfortunate because then we need a new Grand Mage. They're running out of Grand Mages to give to the Dublin Sanctuary. So Ghastly, our boy, this man named Erskine Ravel, this other girl named Madame Mist are now the new 3 Grand Mages. Ghastly and Erskine Ravel were a part of this thing called the Dead Men. The Dead Men are this militia that fought against Malevolent in the war. They are friends with Skulduggery. Skulduggery was also part of this Dead Men militia. So now his besties are Grand Mages, which is great because you can get along with a lot of the mages. That's where we're at the story right now. So Valkyrie is suspected to be the Deathbringer. Everyone thinks she's gonna be the Deathbringer, except for this one man named Craven who thinks that this girl, Melancholia, is going to be the Deathbringer. Melancholia all of a sudden randomly starts becoming super powerful and no one knows why that's happening. It's actually happening because Craven has altered her body to make her more powerful, which is great, except her powers only last like in 20-minute bursts. Melancholia doesn't like Valkyrie because at this point Valkyrie is 16 and basically her entire life has been told that she is going to do amazing things and be really great and be the most powerful person ever. She's a little insufferable right now. Melancholia tries to kill Valkyrie. So Valkyrie is getting super beat up, practically dead, and we find out that Dr. Nye, who sealed her name, is actually the new Sanctuary Doctor. Skulduggery doesn't like this because Dr. Nye tortured a bunch of his friends in the war with Malevolent and no one is happy. But Dr. Nye is like, hey, stay quiet because I know that you are Darkus and if that gets out, that is bad news for you. So Dr. Nye's back in the picture. That's where we're at. Okay, so the elders are like, yes, you should go and investigate the things that are happening in the necromancer area because it seems suspicious. So they go into the necromancy because they want to figure out the things with Melancholia and they also want to figure out what the Deathbringer is. You can see we're starting to get a little more of a complex plot. They get captured because they're not supposed to be in this necromancer land, and that is where we find out the most insane side plot. So remember Skulduggery Pleasant and how he fought against Malevolent? One of the necromancers in the war saw that Skulduggery had real good necromancer potential and thought that he could be a Deathbringer, so he put a little spell on him so that he couldn't die. When he sees his wife and child get killed in front of him, he gets very angry. He also dies because the dagger that he takes to kill Nefarian Serpine, who's no longer here, was poisoned, and that is how he dies. He comes back very, very angry. His anger becomes Lord Vile. This is where it starts getting confusing because, like, Skulduggery Pleasant is a good guy, so he was fighting against Malevolent, but he was also Malevolent's like #1 general. For some reason, basically for plot relevance, that doesn't make sense to me, but yeah. No one can know about Lord Vile being also Skulduggery Pleasant because he killed a lot of their friends. Like, he killed Ghastly's mom and a lot of other people, and he was just overall like a really bad dude. So the question is, how is he Lord Vile again? Because remember we saw Lord Vile at the end of book 5. Well, apparently his anger and revenge and grief and emotions are controlling the Lord Vile armor suit. We couldn't let Valkyrie be the only one with an evil subconscious thing happening. We had to give Skulduggery one as well. So he is Lord Vile now. Valkyrie finds this out and is horrified. Valkyrie is like, how dare you? That's terrible, and goes off. That is when she breaks up with Fletcher because she's like, I've been cheating on you and I hate everything and I hate the world. Melancholia, super powerful, now everyone thinks she's the Deathbringer. Valkyrie doesn't really care. There is a ball that is happening. Everyone is invited to this ball. So she goes to the ball and it's at her Uncle Gordon's house, which is fun and funky for everyone involved. And all of a sudden, everyone starts dropping dead at this ball. This is because Melancholia is stealing all of their souls, and this is where we find out what the Deathbringer is. So the Deathbringer is not going to save the world. It's going to save the world in the terms that the necromancers believe. So the necromancers believe that in order to save the world, they have to kill half of the population of the world, and then no one will ever die again, which objectively not great. So Melancholia basically steals the energy from everyone in the ball except for Valkyrie and Skulduggery, because they're technically not in the ballroom, so they don't die. They go down to the caves under Gordon's house and they're like, Melancholia, stop this, bring everyone back. This is where Skulduggery becomes Lord Vile and starts trying to kill Valkyrie and Melancholia. That's not great. Melancholia attacks Valkyrie, so Valkyrie gets knocked out, which means that Valkyrie becomes Darkess, and then Lord Vile and Darkess have a battle in the sky. That's what happens. And then he snaps out of his Lord Vileness and he's like, Valkyrie, come back, this isn't you. Don't kill your parents. And she wakes up from being Darkess and is able to stop it. Problem is, Melancholia, remember how I said that she was being made ultra powerful and that wasn't good? So her body is deteriorating and killing itself because it's not used to holding all of this power. So they put her in a coma and they keep her at the sanctuary. And that is the end of book 6. What do you think of that? Very weird, right? Am I right? That's a weird one, in my humble opinion. What is happening? This is book 7. This is called Kingdom of the Wicked, which is fun because I reviewed another book called Kingdom of the Wicked. Arguably, that Kingdom of the Wicked is 10 times better than this Kingdom of the Wicked. This, for me, was where I really started losing it. This plot, I mean, the last plot, very strange. This plot, however, just like, where are we going? What are we doing? Anyway, so this book starts with these 3 teenagers finding out that they have all of these magical powers and killing someone. And that is not great. Valkyrie and Skulduggery. First of all, everyone is still worried about this whole Darkess side plot, but no one knows that she is Darkess. Okay, there's also this other side thing happening where all of the sanctuaries are like, hey guys, a lot is happening in Dublin, it seems. We think that you might need our help. And the Irish sanctuary is like, no, we don't need any other sanctuary's help. We've got this. We're gonna make it a year without anything bad happening. At this point, by the way, Valkyrie is 17, almost an adult. She has done a lot. There's this whole other like tension happening where the sanctuaries want to take control of the Irish sanctuary, but these guys do not want anyone's help. All of these humans start getting powers and we're all like, how are they getting powers? This is so weird. What's happening? So they start interviewing these humans, and the thing that keeps coming up repeatedly is this man appearing in their dreams. And this man's name is Argideon. Dumb name, if you humbly ask. So they look into Argideon and they find out that Argideon was a powerful sorcerer who learned his true name. His true name is Argideon. You'll notice that true names are kind of lame. I mean, Darkess, kind of dumb. Argideon, also kind of dumb. Anyway, so Argideon was a really powerful sorcerer who learned his true name. He was put into a deep sleep and brought somewhere secret, so no one could control him. So he is somewhere, but we don't know where, okay? And also, Fletcher Wren has dipped off to Australia at this point because he could not handle the breakup between Valkyrie and him. Also, this entire time, Tanith has kind of gone AWOL with Billy Ray Sanguine. They're in love and they're off fighting crime. Tanith has a remnant inside of her, and that remnant wants Valkyrie to do well and become Darkus because they want the end of the world, and Darkus is gonna bring that. So she's not really relevant anymore, but she will be once again. So don't forget about her and Billy Ray Sanguine. And Billy Ray Sanguine just likes his hot murder machine girlfriend. At the end of last book, forgot to mention this, we find out that China Sorrows was actually the one who gave Malevolent Skulduggery Pleasant's wife and child, and is the reason that they are dead. He has chosen to not forgive her, even though he's Lord Vile. So he has some demons in his closet, if I say so myself. That's where we are at. So they are trying to get information on our Gideon. While they're trying to get information on our Gideon, they go to this prison which has this man. He has the power of shunting. Shunting is basically where you can travel through realities. So he is in this jail and he can travel through realities, and at some point he grabs Valkyrie's hand. You wouldn't think much of that, but because he grabbed Valkyrie's hand, there is this like shunting ripple effect that happens. So Valkyrie is transported to another world where Malevolent never lost the war. So Nefarian Serpine still alive. Lord Vile actually evil. Okay? Okay. Baron Vengeance, all of these people down there. In this world, that's happening. So this whole little side plot where she goes to alternate realities is called a shunting ripple effect. So basically, if a shunter touches you, you will have this side effect where you ripple in and out of this alternate reality. It's also very impressive that she was able to find an alternate reality where she can breathe oxygen, because frequently alternate realities are just like desolate planets. Okay? Cool. This is a dumb plot. The nice thing about her going to this alternate reality is that means that the Scepter of the Ancients, remember from book 1, in this, it's still around in this universe, which is great because we can use it. But there's this little tiny catch with the Scepter of the Ancients. If someone is using it, you have to kill that person in order to be able to access the power of the scepter. Dr. Nye actually studies alternate reality shifting, apparently, and he says that the Scepter of the Ancients should be able to be used by whoever is holding it when they shift to the other reality, because by going to the other reality, you're basically short-circuiting it. It's like you killed that person and then you can use it. That sounds like plot convenience to me, but we'll go with it. Thank you, Dr. Nye, for studying alternate reality science in his spare time. So they decide, in order to defeat our Gideon, because he's giving all of these random humans powers, they're going to go, when she ripples in and out of this reality, they're going to ripple to this reality, fight Malevolent, take the Scepter of the Ancients, and use it to kill our Gideon. Great, great. That's the plot of this book. The 3 teenagers that we see in the beginning are like super powerful, and Even is putting up quite a fight against Darkus. Another thing that happens is she accidentally ripples with her reflection and then ripples out without her reflection, so her reflection gets tortured by Malevolent. Also, China Sorrows in this alternate reality is like the head of the resistance, which is fun. That's all happening. I really hated this book because the whole alternate reality thing was very dumb. They find where our Gideon is being kept, and they bring him to the Dublin Sanctuary. And this is where we find out that even though he seems to be asleep and in a dream state, he actually has slowly controlled a whole bunch of people. So he becomes awake and he's like, I'm going to give all of the humans magical powers. And everyone's like, that's really bad. Look at the magical humans that you have been giving powers to already. They're killing people. And he's like, well, I believe in the good of humans. And everyone's like, well, you shouldn't. This is where we learn another side plot. You know how she's going to this alternate reality and we're like, this is such a wacky, weird thing that's happening. It's actually not that wacky, because apparently our Gideon found this alternate reality and made the shunter touch Valkyrie so that she would shunt to this reality so that he could find his other self, our Gideon in this reality, because remember, this is reality closest to their own reality, so each person has an alternate reality version of themselves. He is gonna find alternate reality our Gideon and he is going to use him to get this whole thing going, because he's not powerful enough to give everyone magical powers right now, but he will be powerful enough once he finds Argideon Part 2. And if you think that's dumb, you're right, because that is a whole stupid plot. They have the Scepter of the Ancients, they found Second Argideon. Second Argideon is like, you are all insane. Humans should not have powers. No, that's a terrible idea. And they are able to stop Argideon. Darkest comes out a few times to fight some people. They stop Argideon, and the psychics basically alter his mind so that he thinks that he is just an average Joe teacher. He has no memory of his true name or anything like that. All gone. So that is how they defeat Argideon, and that is how book 7 ends. So he's gone. Take him off the wall. On to book 8. Book 8. If you've made it this far, honestly, congrats to you, because this has been a long haul. So we're on to book 8. Book 8 is also a really bad book. Again, they all kind of go down from here. The alternate reality really did me in. The sanctuaries are like, actually, Dublin, either you give us some control, because they've become now the Supreme Council. The Supreme Council is like, all right, Dublin Sanctuary, you either give us control of your sanctuary and let us help you out, or there's gonna be a war. And they're like, A-okay, buddy boy, let there be war. So now there's a war. Side note, Valkyrie's reflection, remember her? Ever since she was killed in book 2, she's been a little wonky, and she basically has become her own entity, this reflection of Valkyrie's. She goes by Stephanie now. She wants to kill Valkyrie because she wants her parents to stay alive, because she loves her parents, and because this whole prophecy is still ongoing. We're all like, where's Darkus? How do we stop Darkus from killing the world? This side plot has gone on for far too long. War is happening, okay? Valkyrie 18 now. These sanctuaries and these boys are fighting all the other sanctuaries. That's the plot of this book. The plot of this book is there's a sanctuary war. It's a really, really long book for there just being a war happening. The dead men are that militia that these boys were in. Valkyrie gets to join the dead men. There are a bunch of other dead men. I don't have their names on the wall. It's fine. But the dead men are the main people who are fighting against these other sanctuaries. Erskine Ravel, Ghastly, Skulduggery, Valkyrie, the rest of the dead men are on a journey to fight in this war, right? Madam Mist is back at the sanctuary and puts up a barrier around the sanctuary. Ghastly and Erskine Ravel are like, that's weird. Why is that happening? They go back to investigate that while the rest of the dead men are off doing more stuff. Fletcher Wren. He was going off with these monster hunters. Fletcher Wren gets kidnapped by the Brides of Blood Tears. They need a teleporter, so he's kidnapped. So they go on a very long journey to get him out. While they're on this journey, they get to this, it's in like Egypt or the desert or something. They get to this pyramid. They're fighting their way through the Brides of the Blood Tears. They get him. They're about to transport. Valkyrie is being killed and ripped apart by the Brides of the Blood Tears, and Darkest is like, if you give me control, I can heal you, then everything will be good. But Valkyrie obviously doesn't want to give her control because that means her parents will die. But it doesn't matter because she's basically dead anyway. So Darkest takes control and disappears. She is no longer in this book. While Erskine Ravel and Ghastly were at the sanctuary being like, Madam Mist, why is there a barrier around our sanctuary? It is revealed that Erskine Ravel and Madam Mist have actually been working together because they actually want to rule over the humans, and this is not great. And then Erskine Ravel kills Ghastly. Except the thing is, this book is really confusing and really long, and the writing is really bad. And when he did this, I didn't even realize that it was happening because I was just so confused. So he stabs Ghastly in the throat and is like, oh, I'm so sorry, bestie. I had to kill you. You know how it is. And so that's when we find out that, yeah, actually, he is evil. I mean, you know, he was tied with the dead man, but I guess that doesn't matter anymore. Skulduggery sees this and is very angry and very upset. Doesn't turn into Lord Vile, though. He's very upset with Erskine Ravel for killing our boy. And I'm also very upset with Erskine Ravel for killing our boy because I liked Ghastly and he shouldn't have died. She's off, gone. They're fighting in this. Her reflection, if you remember, wanted to kill her as the scepter, and the scepter has bonded to her. She goes by Stephanie, don't know if I mentioned that. Stephanie has the scepter now, so Stephanie has decided that she is going to aid in this war, which doesn't really make sense for her because her whole thing is that she doesn't want to be magical and that she just wants to have a happy, normal life with her family. But anyway, she's gonna aid in this war with the scepter. And then the book ends. We are on to the end of this. This is book 9. This is where I stopped. That's why I'm making this video, so you don't have to read them. So you know what happens, and then you can stop. I basically wanted to read until this whole Darkest plot ended, and that whole plot ended up taking like 4 books. We open up 5 years in the future. We don't really talk about the war that was happening, and we're opening up to Valkyrie, who lives in a small town in America, I think Ohio. Nothing is explained. The reason why this book is so bad, there are many reasons, but one of the reasons is it flashes back and forth between present day, right after the war, and 5 years in the future where Valkyrie is a farm girl. This is also a book where Derek, he tests out the waters. He's been writing books for a while and he's just decided to try out some new styles for some reason. I don't think it works, but he gave it a shot. So Skulduggery Pleasant is now partnered up with Stephanie. Skulduggery Pleasant and Stephanie are teamed up together to find Darkest, because Darkest is kind of dipped off into nowhere. They think that they can use Erskine Ravel to get Darkest into the picture, because Erskine Ravel is currently being tortured 23 hours out of every day due to the fact that he killed one of Darkest's besties. Rest in peace, Ghastly. Also, what has happened between the 2 books is my gal China Sorrows, she is Grand Mage now, so she got an upgrade. Shout out to her. Billy Ray Sanguine and Tanith are engaged now, which is really fun, and they are working with Darkest. Their current plan is to, remember the shunter who was in prison? Yeah. So their plan is to get the shunter back, have him shunt Erskine Ravel into that reality, because if they put Erskine Ravel in the alternate reality, their assumption is Darkest will come looking for him and try and figure out why their connection has been broken. Because right now she's got a connection with him, which is how she is torturing him 23 hours out of every day. We love alternate realities. It's so plot convenient. They have a conversation with Valkyrie because Valkyrie is appearing in the dreams of one of the psychics. So they have like a little seance where they try and contact Valkyrie, and Valkyrie says that she's still semi-conscious in Darkest, but Darkest is really powerful. So they need to go to this alternate reality so that they can get Valkyrie out. So they go to this alternate reality, the connection is broken with Erskine Ravel, Darkest comes, Darkest can magically transport herself. She learns all sorts of fun skills, and one of the skills that she learns is shunting. So she can shunt into this reality, right? So they have Darkest, they capture her, they go back to their reality, they use the soul catcher on her, and bada bing bada boom, Darkest is in the soul catcher, Valkyrie is back. Except, no she's not, it's actually Darkest pretending to be Valkyrie. Also, Stephanie is Skulduggery's assistant, so right now she's his assistant until they can get Darkest out of the picture. Darkest is here, they go on a little journey to go do something else, it really doesn't matter. Skulduggery learns that this isn't Valkyrie, it's actually Darkest because of her mannerisms or whatever, alerts China. When they transport back to the Dublin Sanctuary, China kills Valkyrie, which is when they put Valkyrie's soul from the soul catcher into Valkyrie's body, and they use this little star thing which restarts her heart. And now Darkest is just a dark entity that is coasting around and will eventually fizzle out. If that made any sense to you, good job, because that was I don't get it, but that's what's happening. The problem with that is now Valkyrie has no magic anymore. Her magic was connected to her name, and now that Darkest is outside of her body, she is just an ordinary human, which is really hard for her. We keep flashing in and out of 5 years in the future. It doesn't matter. Billy Ray Sanguine and Tanith, right? They're homies with Darkest. Billy Ray Sanguine doesn't want the world to end, but is in love with his fiance. So he's willing to let some things slide, but he has a plan to kill Darkest. Tanith is also starting to feel a little wishy-washy on Darkest, and she's thinking that maybe Darkest isn't so good. Darkest needs a whole bunch of things in order to become super powerful, like books and stuff. She's been doing that, but now that she is just a floating entity in the air, she has started possessing bodies. The problem with possessing bodies is none of these bodies can hold her because she's just so powerful. So she ends up killing Valkyrie's reflection and possessing her. The way she does this is she brings Valkyrie's reflection to the caves, which has this pond of magical properties. Somehow she is able to possess it. So she's got a body that she can stay in for longer than a few hours now. That is just Valkyrie again. She also rips the remnant out of Tanith because she needs the information that the remnant has. So she rips out and absorbs the remnant, and now Tanith free from the remnant. So she goes back to the sanctuary, doesn't remember a thing that's happened, doesn't know that Ghastly is dead. Billy Ray Sanguine also comes back and is here to help. He is very sad because his fiance no longer remembers that they're in love. Erskine Revel is also still alive for some fucking reason. He's also being tortured again because Darkest has a body and power. Valkyrie is just a mortal girl. Her parents see this video of Stephanie fighting with the scepter and is like, what's happening? And Valkyrie explains to her that this entire time she's actually been very magical. Also, now that Stephanie is dead, the scepter that she was using, they need to find it because they need to bond with it. Problem is though, Stephanie hid the scepter under her baby sister's Alice's crib. I didn't talk about this, but she has a baby sister. So now her baby sister is bonded with one of the most powerful weapons in the world, which is really bad because the only way to bond with this is to kill its current owner. So now her sister is at great risk. Their current plan to take down Darkest, they need to get Melancholia back in the picture. Melancholia has been in a coma, if you remember. So they wake Melancholia up and explain what's happening. Their goal is basically to use her, and she will either die because she uses all of her powers and it causes her to implode, or they will wipe all of her memories like they did with Argideon. Darkest is on a side quest to go find Argideon and use Argideon's knowledge to become more powerful. She's off to find Argideon, who is now just a normal-ass teacher, and Melancholia is here to help with the war against Darkest. Basically, there's going to be a huge battle. This battle involves, oh yeah, they go to the alternate reality again, for a second time. I don't fully remember why, but Dr. Nye from alternate reality, it is torturing Valkyrie because, you know, Malevolent's still alive in this, so they capture Valkyrie, they're dissecting her, and it is like, oh, you don't have any magic, but you also have super magical potential. That's so weird. Then they get back to normal reality. This is the only reason why Dr. Nye is still on the board, because that whole little thing happens. They're back in real reality. Her baby sister is being taken hostage by one of the remnants because Darkest is releasing the remnants so that they can fight on her side against these guys. And also because they need Alice, because Alice has the scepter. Little baby Alice is a threat to Darkest, so we gotta take her out. Valkyrie and her parents go on a mission to save Alice. This is where we find out that Valkyrie actually has very powerful magical power, which is really dumb because she's not supposed to have any power, but now all of a sudden she has like this blinding light that can come out of her hands. No one knows how powerful she is because her power isn't tied to a name anymore, so she could be like the most powerful person in the world. It's dumb, but it is what happens. The remnants are fighting with Darkest, Melancholia, and Lord Vile is back as well. So Melancholia and Lord Vile are taking down Darkest. Valkyrie is here. She's got something called the Death Touch Gauntlet. Instant death. No brain activity happening here. So she gets her information from Argideon because she uses Tanith's remnant to go inside of Argideon, and then she possesses Argideon's remnant and gets knowledge. Tanith and Billy Ray Sanguine are fighting with them. China is being Grand Mage. Huge battle is happening. Lord Vile and Melancholia are fighting Darkess. Valkyrie Kane goes off with her baby sister because they get her sister back from the remnants. Goes off with her baby sister and touches her with the Death Touch Gauntlet. Is able to bond with the Scepter, which she needs to fight Darkess. I kind of wish at this point that her baby sister had just died. I think it would have been important for Valkyrie to have like any lasting effects because nothing wrong has happened for this girl. Oh, she doesn't have any powers, that's so sad. Oh, never mind, she has powers. It's too easy. I wish her sister didn't come back from life. But they used that little star that they used at the beginning to restart her baby sister's heart. Her baby sister is good, and now she has the scepter. They go, they take down Darkess. All of these psychics are gathered around Darkess and chanting or whatever, and Darkess is so powerful, she kills them all. So she kills Fletcher, she kills Tanith, kills Skulduggery and Lord Vile. Everyone is dying, and then she takes over the entire world, and then that's not enough, so she takes over the planet, and then that's not enough, so she goes to the Faceless Ones because she's gonna take them too. Except, psych, no she's not, because she's imagining this. Actually what happened is the psychics are doing something powerful to her, and she is imagining that she's taking over the world, but she's not there capturing her and putting her in a little coma. It was all a dream. So everyone is not dead. This is also at the point in the book where there are just like one sentence chapters. So it'll be like, chapter 100, there was darkness. Chapter 200, more darkness. And like that is just unnecessary, which is why this book is like 150 chapters long. Anyway, so all good. Darkess is captured and we can be happy about that. Also, he has figured out his issues and now he's no longer Lord Vile. Melancholia is gone. Then we go back to 5 years in the future where a lot of stuff has happened that's completely relevant. The only thing that is relevant is she went into hiding because she felt guilty about being Darkess, and 5 years from now Skulduggery Pleasant shows up on her door and she's ready to go solve crime again. So yay. That's it. That's book 9. There's more. There's like 10 more. I'm not going to read them because this took a lot out of me emotionally. The book 9 really did it for me. The fact that there were 2 books and the fact that halfway through we just had like one sentence chapters. Also the fact that we went to an alternate reality 17 different times and people kept coming back from the dead. I couldn't do it. That is the end of this. If you made it to the end, congrats to you. Godspeed. Thank you for staying and watching. I hope you had a fun time listening to me talk about this silly little book. That is all I have for you guys today. So I hope you have a great rest of your day and I will see you in the next video. So, peace.